Hello everybody, good afternoon and welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news. We're going to be talking about Manchester United's renewed interest in Pau Torres. Also, Paul Pogba's going to leave Manchester United. I don't know whether you didn't know that. I mean, I'm stunned. Paul Pogba leaving United? When? Why didn't anyone mention it? We'll also be talking about quite a big development around United as well. They've removed head of scouting, head of global scouting. 2 people have been removed from the club today, which I think is a positive bit of news as well. And we'll also be talking about a few other bits as well as Ten Hag has been in a meeting this afternoon with his agents, I think, and we're obviously expecting that official announcement very soon. I think hopefully it'll come tomorrow. It could still come this afternoon as well. But look, we'll start off on some welcome news. Obviously, there's no such thing as good news around Cristiano Ronaldo at the moment, having been through what him and his family have been through. But he has been photographed at Carrington today, back in training, and I think we can certainly say that that's welcome news, that Cristiano could well be back playing for Manchester United very soon. Obviously, I think we all would say take as long as you like. If it's the end of your season, it's the end of your season. It's a horrible thing he's been through. But I think most people expected Cristiano would return and be available for Arsenal, and it certainly looks like he may well be available for Arsenal. So Cristiano Ronaldo back in training for Manchester United, or doing some conditional work anyway. Doesn't necessarily mean he's back for Arsenal, and of course as a fan base no one's going to be anticipating he's back for Arsenal, but there is a possibility that he will be. Let's start off then talking about Pau Torres. United want Pau Torres. Now, it's been reported in the Manchester Evening News, but it was actually the first place I saw it, and I'll give him a shout out, is Twitter account United Plug put it out there a few days ago that there'd been some discussion with Pau Torres' agent, I think, or someone close to Pau Torres, saying that Manchester United have renewed their interest in Pau Torres. However, he's obviously very focused on Villarreal at the moment, with them in a semi-final against Liverpool next week in the Champions League, and their current exploits in the La Liga League as well. So nothing is being massively advanced with Pau Torres, but there's certainly some noise around him at the moment. Now, what I would say about Pau Torres is, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's 25. I'm pretty sure he's somebody who's got a birthday either late at the end of the year or early part of the year. But I think he's just turned 25. Good in the air. He's been a fantastic centre-back for the last couple of years, and he's been someone that's been linked to United. But I do agree that we've got to be careful to a certain extent. Just because he's better than Harry Maguire doesn't mean that we need to start going signing anybody who's better than Harry Maguire. I mean, personally, I'd put Peppa Pig instead of Harry Maguire at the moment, and she wears a red top. So look, halfway there already. But we do need to be very careful. I was talking about this morning, about how we recruit players. I think as fans, we're going to talk about the changing of the scouting. We're going to talk about a few things around other players and targets. But we can't just go, Harry Maguire's rubbish, and, you know, I mean, can I just say as well, how far have we fallen as a football club that we're now cheering Phil Jones? I don't dislike Phil Jones. I think he's full of effort. Some would say he's full of something else, but I think he's full of effort. But let's not pretend he's any good. Like that was sympathy last night. You know, that was literally, oh, Phil Jones can't be any worse than Maguire. Like, you know, it was sympathy, and he was woefully off the pace for that goal. You know, I know he was trying to get back, but he was woefully out of position, and he was woefully off the pace. At the top level, I don't think Phil Jones plays for anybody in the Premier League, really. I think there's a debate to be had. Could Phil Jones start for any Premier League side? I don't know whether he could. So let's not pretend this isn't about a popularity contest as well. All right, Harry Maguire at the moment is not very popular, and I completely understand that. But Phil Jones is popular at the moment. And actually, if I was sat at home and I was Harry Maguire, I'd be like, why is Phil Jones more popular than me? I'm not convinced there's a massive difference between the two. Certainly Phil Jones isn't any better. And my point of making that is that we can't just go, Pau Torres is better than Harry Maguire, let's get Pau Torres. Obviously he is, but what we should be doing in the new world is not just buying a player because they're better or we think they're better. We should be buying a player that's going to be suitable for us for the next few years, that there's no concerns around their injury history, that they're going to fit in with the way that we want to play. This is something we haven't done, and we'll be feeding into this in a moment, but we need to buy players that are going to suit us for the next 4 years, that are going to suit the way we're going to play, that fit in with the team and system that we want to play. And that, as I said, they're not ridiculously priced, and they don't have bad injury records. Because I look at some of the centre-backs we've bought, Eric Bailly had 3 separate injuries the year before we bought him. That should have been a red flag. Harry Maguire we paid £80 million for. That should have been a red flag. So we've got to get the price right. We've got to look at the player and what they've done for the last 3 years in relation to injury and form. And we've got to look at what we think they're going to do over the next 3 years. And we've also got to look at what attributes they've got and how they fit into our team. Now, Pau Torres, for me, I'd probably have to watch him a little bit more. I've not watched loads of him this season. I thought he was very, very impressive against Bayern Munich in the games that I watched. But I haven't really seen much more of him. The last time I watched Pau Torres a lot would have been a year ago when we were being linked to him and we didn't think we were going to get Varane. So, I mean, obviously I saw him play against us in the Europa League final, unfortunately. He's a good centre-back. There's no doubt about that. And I think there's a case to say, is he just about in the top 10 centre-backs in the world? He's certainly in the top 20. And at 25, he's coming into his prime years. Are his skills transferable to the Premier League? And I think the games they're going to play against Liverpool next week are going to be very interesting to watch him. And that's about as far as I would say with Pau Torres. I'm not going to sit here on this show and just because I'm desperate to get rid of Maguire, I'm not going to go get Pau Torres, because there might be 4 or 5 better options than him that are playing in different leagues that aren't as high profile. So it's encouraging that we're linked to Pau Torres. Ultimately, he's a left-footed centre-back who's good in the air. He's got good recovery pace. He's very good on the ball. And he seems to be positionally very, very intelligent. Well, straight away, you could imagine a centre-back pairing of Torres and Varane doing very, very well if Varane can stay fit. And 100% he would be Maguire's replacement because Maguire isn't left-footed. So a left-footed centre-back, he would be the replacement. And if Pau Torres ticks all the boxes, I wouldn't have a problem spending 40 to 50 million quid on him. But we've got to make sure he ticks all the boxes. Did you see Neville saying that the scouts that have left were already marginalised and not that revolutionary, says Hanif? The problem with anything that Gary Neville says is that I think it just comes across as sour grapes. I think because, what did he say about Solskjaer? Like, he defended Solskjaer. So I take it with a pinch of salt, really. We'll talk about it in a minute. Welcome to the Members Club, Lewis. And another of our members, Simran, says, one thing United have taught me this season is humility. Lots of it. Yeah. It's funny, I was having a conversation about Liverpool about an hour ago with somebody who's doing an article, and they said, what are your thoughts on Liverpool as the biggest rivals? And I said, look, I never want Liverpool to win, but I'm envious of what they've done as a football club over the last 4 years, and I have to respect them because they're a very, very good side. And yeah. Hi, Mark. Do you think if Varane didn't have injury problems this season, we would be higher up the table? Says Mark. I think we might be closer to 4th, but ultimately I don't think one player... I mean, Ronaldo's been brilliant this year. The goalkeeper's been brilliant this year. I don't think one player makes a big difference. Jayling's fam, not heard from you in ages, says Tap Sober's a good defender. There are other options, is what we're trying to say. Timber's very interesting as well. So look, I'm encouraged by the interest in Torres. I absolutely think we need to buy a centre-back, and we've been linked to Akanji, Timber, Rudiger. Pau Torres is a good option. All I would say is, in keeping with rebuilding this football club, let's not lurch from one mistake to another. Let's make sure that the signings we make this summer, and we have to make signings, we can't just make sure and not buy somebody. We've got to get a centre-back, we've got to get a CDM, we've got to get a striker, and we've got to get a winger. But let's make sure we get the right ones in. And, you know, I think people are starting to put 2 and 2 together and make 5. I'm 100% convinced from what I've been told that Harry Maguire will be a Manchester United player next season. We will still have an £80 million captain at this club next season. So what we need to do is make sure that if he's going to be here, he's not an automatic starter. He will be here. He will play games. That's going to happen. But we do need to bring in a centre-back that is better than him so that ideally, we've got Varane and the new centre-back as our starters. What we can't do is build a team around Maguire like we have done for the last 2 years. So there has to be a contingency plan. I think Pau Torres is a very interesting one. Do I think we'll end up buying Pau Torres? Probably not. But I certainly would be watching him against Liverpool over the next couple of weeks and seeing how he deals with a Premier League attack. He dealt well with Lewandowski and Bayern Munich, and he's having a good couple of years at Villarreal. Let's see how he plays up against Liverpool with that Salah on that side and whatever they do through the middle. Anurug, welcome to the Members Club. If you want to join the Members Club, click the join button. You're very, very welcome. You get your little badge next to your name like Nigel Green. And we've got exclusive content for you as well. In fact, our next video, I forget what it is. It's going up tomorrow. It's a transfer head-to-head again. So we're comparing a target against the current player to see how they do. I think it's Nunez against Ronaldo. but we may well be doing a Torres one soon as well. So check it out if you are a member. If you want to become a member, click the join button, and thank you very much for joining. I will support whoever we sign, but Timber is too small, Torres is too slow. Get the right profile, says Ramnish. And I haven't got a problem with what Ramnish says there. I just don't think we can just be excited by a new shiny toy. I made that mistake with Harry Maguire. I was on about it this morning. You will see clips of me, you'll see tweets of me being very positive about Harry Maguire, saying you pay for what you get. Same with Wan-Bissaka. And ultimately, I'm going to analyse our signings a little bit more from now on and go, what do we need in a centre-back? And I look at Liverpool and I look at their 4 centre-backs. I look at Van Dijk, Matip, Joe Gomez and Konate. And I see 4 centre-backs that are very different but are very similar. If one of them gets injured, Klopp can still play a high line. They're all very, very quick. They're all very agile. So Klopp knows that if he loses 2 centre-backs, which he did last season, he can still play 2 centre-backs that can allow him to play the same way. We need to establish how we want to play, and then we need to buy players that befit that. Now, can Pau Torres play a high line on the halfway line in the Premier League? I don't know. Can Timber do it? Well, he can do it for Ajax, but can he do it in the Premier League? We need to buy the right profile of player. And I think we're living in an era now where your centre-back needs to be able to say to your full-backs, push forward, I'll deal with it on my own. They need to be confident, they need to be agile, they need to be fast. And that's the profile of centre-back that we need at Manchester United. And actually, Phil Jones isn't, Lindelof isn't, Varane is, Bailly is, Maguire isn't. So we've only got 2 centre-backs that can actually play the way we would like to play, and we've never played them together. Gvardiol is one of the best centre-backs in the Bundesliga right now, says Marv. Funnily enough, I'm trying to sign him on my FIFA career mode, but he's got a £44 million release clause. He's at Leipzig, he's a good player. Is height in a centre-back more important than quickness, says Stephen Rossi? I don't think height in a centre-back's that important. I'm glad that you said that before we move on. I don't think that height in a centre-back is that important. Cannavaro of Italy wasn't. I don't think he was that big. I think he was about 5'10". Timber's 5'10", I think. Obviously Koundé's 5'10". I don't think a tall centre-back is that important anymore, because if you think about the modern footballer, who's over 6 foot in Man City's attack? Who's over 6 foot in Liverpool's attack? And they're the 2 best teams in the world, arguably. I don't think it's massively important as long as one of you are. If you've got Varane, who's 6'3", and then you've got Timber, who's 5'10", what's the problem? What's the problem with it? I think you can deal with it quite simply. I mean, obviously, it's ideal what Liverpool have got. They've got 2 strikers, 2 centre-backs who are fast, and they're both over 6 foot. Hi, Mark. Is it not possible Ten Hag will play with 2 strikers next season, says Yasin? I doubt he will. It's not really ever been his way at Ajax, so I doubt he will. But you never say never. Do you think we could get De Ligt? He also played under Eric Ten Hag, says Rahul. You see, I'm not going to say, again, I think you make a great point, Rahul, and I'm glad you've said it. If we go for De Ligt, if I get a message now from somebody reliable and they say United are after De Ligt, I'm not going to read it and go, yes, get De Ligt. Because I haven't really looked at De Ligt this season. I haven't really looked at what he's doing. I mean, the last time I looked at De Ligt in any detail was when we were looking to buy him a couple of years ago. So I'm not going to sit here and go that De Ligt's the answer to our problems just because he's a high-profile name. I'd have to look at him and think, does he fit in with how we want to play? He's better than Maguire, but so's most of the football playing world. So we've got to think about what's best for us. Welcome to the Members Club, Addy. Thanks for joining. And I feel like I'm picking on Maguire, but he has no positional awareness, says the Genius Knows. He's slow. He's got no football intelligence, and a pint of milk turns quicker than him, says the Genius Knows. Yeah, I mean, look, that's why I wanted to bring Phil Jones into the show, because Maguire is the captain. Maguire's getting a lot of stick, and it is deserved, but he's not the only one. And when you look at the defence last night, I mean, Phil Jones was dreadful. And it's only a sympathy vote that people are going, well, at least he puts effort in. I mean, it was about a year ago, if we'd have been starting Phil Jones, people would have gone into meltdown. So, but now we're saying, oh, let's give him a chance. That's how bad things are. So, look, we've got to be even-handed. There's so many of these players are just not good enough. Phil Jones will leave in the summer. Eric Bailly will leave in the summer. I believe Lindelof and Maguire and Varane will be here next year and we'll sign a centre-back. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done. How do we know... Jay says, Mark, how do we know our players now won't infect the new players coming in? Well, this is a very good point from Jay. Dressing room influence is a massive problem at Manchester United. And newer players coming in will obviously... when you start a new job, you want to please your new colleagues. Well, realistically, we don't want new players being infected, like you say, by the old players. We want the new players to come in and kick these old players up the arse, which is why I think Ronaldo staying is very, very important. We need more than one CDM. Is it worth getting Ghana involved next season, Mark, says Simran? It might be. It might be. Actually, just I hope this isn't something that's going to impact on Ghana, but he's actually got the same agent as Harry Maguire. It's the same sport agency, so let's hope he doesn't pick up too many of those traits. De Ligt is the next Sergio Ramos, and he can play high defensive line. He is fast, aerially dominant, and as well as a great ball-playing centre-back, says Akel. Well, he's also a client of Mino Raiola, which I don't think is going to go down particularly well. Obviously, Paul Pogba, Sky Sports News, Slow Sports News, saying this morning after the news show that Paul Pogba wants to leave Manchester United after being booed at the weekend. Paul Pogba's not leaving Manchester United because he's been booed at the weekend. Paul Pogba's not happy he got booed at the weekend, but he's not leaving because of that. Paul Pogba's leaving because he's out of contract and United are crap. The chances of him signing a new contract were probably slim. They're probably non-existent now he got booed at the weekend. But look, I don't think we should... It's not a headline to say Paul Pogba's leaving because he was booed at the weekend. Paul Pogba's had 2 years to sign a new deal at United and he's decided not to do it, which is his right. As a footballer who's under contract, he can run it down. United have got to take a long, hard look at themselves. But Paul Pogba's not signing a contract because of the fans that booed him. Paul Pogba's not signing a contract because he doesn't want to play for Manchester United. But obviously Mino Raiola is his client, and Mino Raiola is De Ligt's and Gravenberch and Haaland's client agent as well. So I don't think we're going to be signing players like that. Torres was the 5th fastest player in the Premier League, in La Liga in 2020. Can we please not spread inaccurate information like Torres is slow, says Ricardo. Well, there you go. Good point. Something Ten Hag team goes into a 3-4-1-2 and the right back overlaps or inverts and the left back overlaps or plays as a third centre back. I think Shaw can do that, says Cian. A player we should be going after is Tamare, says Marcy. And I think Kakare is an elite CDM who plays at Lyon. I've probably just murdered his name as well, Akil. I'm sorry about that. Apologies for that. But look, the fact remains, we know we need to bring players in and we know that they need to be of the right calibre for the manager. I think there was a great point there about dressing room influence. I was talking to an agent a couple of days ago, actually, not a Man United player agent, but an English-based agent, and we were talking about the modern footballer, and they were basically saying that the best footballer is the footballer that comes off the pitch and knows they've had a bad game, and then seeks out knowledge as to why they've had a bad game, and will have an open conversation about their own game. So a player walks off, I'm not happy with how I played, what did you think? Yeah, you're probably with this, and they'll talk about it and figure out why it's gone wrong. But I was told that this is few and far between with the modern footballer, because they'll come off and they don't want to hear about negativity, and they're surrounded by people who give them positivity, who will go, oh, I thought you played well, you were just a bit unlucky with that deflection, or you're a bit unlucky that you lost your man, I think you played well. And all these people giving you shit, they don't know what they're on about, and the player will believe that. The modern footballer, most of them are very, very arrogant and don't want to hear criticism, and are surrounded by people who feed them positivity all the time. So in bringing it back to Manchester United, there are a lot of United players that are like that as well. You think they're waking up this morning, logging onto Twitter and seeing all the hate and everything like that, or all the criticism. They're not. They're getting up for breakfast. Their agent's on the phone. Don't worry about it. You're absolutely fine. The club love you. Yeah, you've got a big contract. We'll get you a new one in the next couple of years. You're fine. Don't worry about it. Go and go down the gym and just chill out for the day. And that's what's going on. We live with the pain and frustration of what they did last night. They wake up in the morning and are like, well, look, I'm under a big contract. I'm being paid big money. These idiots online, they're just hating me for no reason. They're hating me because one of the big ones is they're hating me because they're jealous of me. They're jealous. That's what it is. They're jealous of you. They're just jealous. They're jealous that you're playing for Man United and they're not. And that's what's going on in United's dressing room. They're all islands. They're all being fed nonsense about how great they are, and there's no accountability. And that's why when we bring new players in, we need to shield them from these, negative impacts who just don't acknowledge how bad they are and what they're doing to this club. Through these tough times as a United faithful, I'm grateful for your amazing content. It really hits the mark. Big up everyone on the United stand, says Addy. Thank you very much for the super chat. Does Jim Lawler and Marcel Bout leaving help us improve our scouting recruitment, says Ken? We're going to talk about that right now. And whatever said and done, we need 6 signings in the summer, says Mojo. I think it would be a mistake if Ten Hag tries to recreate this Ajax side by bringing in current and ex-players like De Ligt and De Jong. Yeah, you don't want to bring too many in, Stephen. I agree. I said that the other day. I totally agree with that. I said it the other day as well. If we're going to bring players in from Ajax, I'd rather we brought 1, maybe 2. Because remember, Donny van der Beek is 1 anyway. So if you buy De Ligt and Anthony, and you've already got Donny van der Beek, that's 3 players that are ex-Ajax players playing with Ten Hag. So remember, we've got Donny already, who knows the way and will be very loyal to Ten Hag. I'd just bring 1 more in. And Timber's interesting, but remember Timber's a young player as well. What did we just talk about? Influence. You bring a young player to Man United, is he going to be telling the experienced players to shut up, he doesn't want to listen to them, or is he going to try and please them? And you look at the experienced players in United's team, and the last thing you want is a young player being influenced by them. I mean, you know, certain experienced players of United who have been shit this season have been and spoken in the dressing room to the young players in the Youth Cup games. Well, you know, do you want him talking to them? He's bloody useless. So we do need to bring some experienced players in. I mean, De Ligt, Pau Torres, they're not going to come into this club and be told what to do by our centre-backs, are they? You know, maybe Varane, they might respect him, but they don't need to respect anyone else. So it's the right profile of player that we need to bring in. Anyway, does Jim Lawler and Marcel Boat leaving help us improve our scouting and recruitment? So 2 people have basically been removed from Manchester United today, involved in head of scouting and recruitment, and their names are Jim Lawler and Marcel Bout. You might not know who they are. You don't need to know who they are, but they have been removed from the football club, parted ways, whatever you want to call it. It's long overdue. Long overdue. Gary Neville's come out and said that, in relation to Jim Lawler, he didn't have much of an input anyway. How Manchester United runs and who had an input and whether these 2 people are being offered up as sacrificial lambs, it doesn't really matter. But whether those 2 people are part of the problem or not is what I'm trying to say. It does not matter, because ultimately it signifies a reboot, a change. Those 2 people will be replaced. Maybe they'll bring Paul Mitchell in. Maybe they'll bring somebody else in. Restructure, change. You know, sometimes good people get the sack to bring better people in. Sometimes bad people get the sack to bring better people in. Ultimately, it's a rejig, it's a change, and that's a positive thing. Ultimately, Manchester United are going to move away from a monthly football manager search with a UK filter on to actually getting out there and scouting. Now, I joke about that, but actually, when you look at what we've done over the last 9 years, it's no joke. The summer of Solskjaer was basically football manager with a UK filter. We spent £150 million in the UK on Maguire, Wan-Bissaka and Dan James. 150 million quid. I can think of 150 million different ways we could have spent that money, but we wasted it. And who was involved in the scouting? Who was involved in signing that off? Lots of people who are still going to be in a job, but lots of people who shouldn't be in a job anymore. So I think that the important thing is that we are going to acknowledge and make change. And of course, let's not forget, I don't actually think things should be as bad as they are at Manchester United. The Glazers are not good owners. They're not. But we have spent over £1 billion in the last 9 years. What do we have to show for that £1 billion? If I give you £1 billion 9 years ago and you come back to me and say, there's £150 million back, I'm going to go, what the hell have you done with 850 million quid? Well, we invested it and it's gone all over the place. You don't give £1 billion to somebody and expect to get 150 million back. You give £1 billion to somebody and you expect to get 1.15 billion back. You expect to make your money work. So it doesn't matter whether you like the Glazers or dislike the Glazers. They did give this football club £1 billion to spend on players. And they've barely got 150 million quid back, because most of that money spent on players has just disappeared. You think about Sanchez, you think about, Wan-Bissaka 50 million. How much are you getting for him now? Paul Pogba, we spent 90 million on. We're going to get nothing. So somebody's heads have got to roll, haven't they? That's my point. Like, you can't, whatever you think about the Glazers, they did factually give us £1 billion and we've wasted it. And whoever's wasted it, or why we've wasted it, has to go. We had the story a couple of weeks ago that Rangnick had said you need to be scouting Nkunku, and United weren't even scouting him. So things need to change in relation to our recruitment, big time. So look, whether we're sacking the right people or not, whether we recruit the right people or not, I'd still say it's a positive because it's a highlight of an area that is definitely failed. We have made massive mistakes, and you can't spend that amount of money and do that. I mean, Liverpool's success rate in the transfer market is ridiculously successful compared to ours, which is ridiculously unsuccessful. They finally cleared out the scouting lads, but haven't kicked out Matt Judge yet. Why? Also, your opinion on Paul Mitchell, our head of recruitment, says Ames. I really hope we can bring Paul Mitchell in. I think that a lot of the things we're doing do seem to have a Rangnick seal of approval. Ten Hag was very much Rangnick's preference. Doesn't mean that that's why they went for him. If you bring Paul Mitchell in, he's got a very good relationship with Ten Hag. We talk about RB Leipzig and Nkunku, Lema. I can't pronounce his name as the centre-back, but there are some good players there as well. It feels to me that we're actually starting to utilise the right man. And look, for me, Ralf Rangnick is not a coach. He's not a coach. That's not what excited me about Ralf Rangnick. The exciting element of Ralf Rangnick as a coach is the fact that people like Jurgen Klopp, Thomas Tuchel, Nagelsmann all admire Klopp's principles of football and have been very, very successful about it. But in recent years, the real genius of Ralf Rangnick is his ability to build football clubs and scout players, and I think that we need to tap into that because we've been very bad about that. I mean, look, at the end of the day, if you've been in the jungle for 9 years and you're being attacked by all sides, you're starving, you don't know your way out, and then you come across Ralf Rangnick with his glasses on and his little jungle hat and everything, and he says, I know loads of ways out of this jungle. It's all right, we'll carry on with what we've got, lost for 9 years. Of course you're going to follow Ralf Rangnick, and that's what Manchester United need to do. In this jungle of uncertainty and danger, we are lost. But Ralf Rangnick is a proven guide out, and we need to utilise that skill. Why would you not utilise it? So what's gone on the pitch has not been great. Most of that's to do with the players downing tools and not trying, which we visibly see every single game. But in relation to the rebuild of the football club, then Ralf Rangnick is certainly somebody that we need to tap into. I don't know whether he's Tarzan, Amwell, but we definitely need to utilise him. And if we can bring Paul Mitchell in, that's great. I certainly think Ten Hag, with his coaching team, Paul Mitchell, Ralf Rangnick as a consultant, John Murtagh, Darren Fletcher, you've got a good team there for people to learn and develop and grow, and that would be great. But we'll have to wait and see whether that actually happens or not. But the scouting is obviously very important. And what I would say as well is, and I know this might not land where I want it to land at the moment, but I don't think things are as bad as they are, if that makes any sense. I mean, I've never known United be in such a bad position in my lifetime. The football's the worst we've ever seen. The team's the worst we've ever seen. They're paid ridiculous amount of money. We're going to be stuck with a lot of them for a long time, and their attitude absolutely stinks. But it's retrievable. It's retrievable with the right people in the club and the right leadership and the right people to make difficult decisions. I think you can turn this around, like Rangnick said, I think you can turn this around in 1 or 2 years if you're willing to make the decisions to do that. And if you're willing to say over the next 2 years, I don't care what player is in that squad, all of them can go for all I care over the next 2 years, then we will get there. What we can't do is what we've done over the last 9 years and protect bad decisions and protect people who don't deserve to be protected. And we've seen the evidence of that this season, and we'll see the evidence of it on Saturday, where people who do not and should not be starting start, and people who deserve to start won't start. And that has to stop. You're the goat of the United stand, Mark, says Isaac. Well, we've got a great team of which you are all part of it. Do you think we'll be okay in 2 to 4 years, says Nigel Green? I think the jury's out. I think it so much depends on how the board run the club from now on in. But I certainly think that when you look at, what I would say is look at Jose Mourinho's last few months. had to be sacked. Players turned on him. The board turned on him. Had to be sacked. But if you look back at that day that Jose Mourinho got sacked, it was 2 days after we'd lost at Anfield, and I think we lost 2-1. And people were furious. You can't lose at Anfield. It's a disgrace. I think we lost 2-1. You look at where we were under Solskjaer, where you're losing 5-0 at Old Trafford, and they're 4-0 up half time. We thought when Mourinho lost to Liverpool, that was our low point. It wasn't. I'd love to be back there now. That was not the low point. It was low, but it wasn't the low point. The preceding 3 years are the low point, and we're right in the depths of the low point right now. This club sold Solskjaer's reign as a cultural reset and a cultural reboot and a rebuild. And it wasn't. It wasn't a rebuild at all. Behind the smiles, it was actually sabotage. So we've got a long way to come back. But the only way is up. The only way is up. And I think, although we'll still have problems for the next year or so, we will start to build our way up. And the best thing we need to do at the moment, because the Glazers are still going to be here. Certain members of the board are still going to be here. But I don't think in the short term they are going to be the issue. The issue at the moment, and the reason we're losing football games, is because we've got so many players that don't belong at this football club, who we've built up. We've played our part as fans. The club have certainly played their part in the wages and exposure they've given them and the power. They need clearing out. Man United's board need to get a team of players that respect this football club, love this football club, and are unified behind the football club. That's what needs to happen in the very short term. Anyway, look, we will be back. Mark, react to Keane's comments. I've spoken about Roy Keane's comments. I mean, at the end of the day, I think he blamed Rashford, Lingard, Maguire. Basically said they're all a load of shit. I mean, I can't disagree with it. I mean, I saw Jesse's interview this morning, and it was like, tell me you don't give a shit without telling me you don't give a shit. I mean, it just looked disinterested and everything else. It was just, but he's not the problem. He should have been allowed to go in January. We've got lads playing for Man United last night who are local lads who've been playing through the youth, and they're putting in worse performances than people who've not come through our youth. It's from top to bottom, it's a joke. Nobody's coming out of this season with any credibility. Not even De Gea and Ronaldo, because their standards are a lot higher than what they've had to do this season, even though they've done well. It's a wasted year of their career. Right, remember tonight we're back at 7 o'clock because it's not an 8 o'clock show, because I'm doing Chelsea versus Arsenal as a watch along on That's Football. So make sure you tune in at 7 o'clock tonight sharp. We'll then be going on to That's Football. I will be on Twitch in about 15 minutes for FIFA Career Mode, and make sure you smash a like on the video. Don't forget, we will be getting announcements on Erik ten Hag at some point in the next 24 hours, so be wary of that. Make sure you subscribe, bottom right hand corner. And if you want to join the members club, click the join and join the members club. I'll see you on Twitch in about 15 minutes. Thanks everybody for watching. It will be 7 o'clock sharp, Dylan. Just to make you look a prat, I will be live at 7 o'clock sharp. Not 7:05, 7 o'clock.